All right, and welcome to Chapter 15. We are going to be talking today about the Indian uh, the Indian Ocean Basin, and especially about Indian Ocean sea lanes. So, give me back that. All right, so Indian Ocean. So most of what we're talking about today, man, will deal with India itself. But some of the others will talk about some of the other things that happened on the Indian Ocean. First, like every trade route, it's shaped by the same stuff. If you remember Chapter 12, there were 4 things that trade routes are shaped by, and you need to know specifically how these are shaped. First, they are shaped by the climate. In this case, it's the monsoon winds. If you remember, if this is India and this is Africa, and I can draw a map decently, which I can't, you go one way in the winter and a different way in the summer. It's the reverse of what I just said with each arrow, but you go one way in the winter and one way in the summer because of the monsoon winds. So the monsoon winds help the trade. Second is the location. Now in this case, India is perfectly situated on the ocean. And the ocean is much more effective. It's a much more effective place to travel for a few reasons. First, you can haul more stuff by water than by land. And second, you tend to, in most areas, face fewer hostiles. And also, India has good proximity to Africa and, of course, China by water. And so it works really well for them. Third is the type of trade good. In this case, the Indians begin to sell cotton, luxury cotton. In the modern world, Egyptian cotton is the thing, because you put more thread per inch and it makes it soft and luxurious. Back then, it was Indian cotton that people wanted. Last but not least is the ethnicity of the traders. In this case, they started to have issues between the Hindus and the Muslims. They just didn't get along very well. We'll talk more about that, and that is a conflict that begins here and will continue. You will also see a little later why they had conflicts, and it's not so happy. Now I'm going to show you a dhow. A dhow is the Indian ship, assuming everything works okay. Copy and stop inking and paste. Or maybe I'm not going to show you a dhow. Copy and paste. Paste. It's not going to paste. Just trust me, there are ships called dhows. Oh, I can do it. I'll just pull this whole stupid thing over. Look, there one is. There, a ship called a dhow. Those are the kinds that they use in the Indian Ocean Basin. But those aren't the ones you need to remember. The ones that are easier to remember, and we're going to do it this way because it's so easy to remember. These ships are called junks. Now, you've seen these before in like a million Chinese movies, but there one is. Or you saw it for a second, and then my computer decided to be all snappy. There it is, a junk. Now, a Chinese junk is the primary ship they went, and if you remember that well, you'll notice that it has a really cool sail. You got the boat, and then the sail kind of comes up and loops down around, and it's kind of semi-triangular, which gives it a lot of the advantages of the lateen sail, which is the kind the Indians are using. So, it's all kinds of cool. It works really well. Now, speaking of India, the last thing in India that you need to know is all about the Delhi Sultanate. The Delhi Sultanate. What happened is a Turkish slave dynasty. Why would that be A? That would be one. Turkish slave dynasty started it. That doesn't mean that they were slaves, that means that they were slave traders. Okay, and the first one of these guys was a guy named Mahmud of Ghazni. Ghazni. In about 1000 AD, Mahmud started cruising over into India from the Caliphate with two goals. One was to spread Islam. He spread Islam by destroying Buddhist and Hindu shrines, murdering the adherents, and then at the point of the sword asking people to convert. And his second goal was to get stinking rich. So at least he was straightforward in his desires. His his successor was Mahmud of Ghazni. Now students tend to screw these two up because they try to only memorize that part of the word. Don't do that. Okay, Muhammad's a very different name than Mahmud. I don't know what Mahmud means, but it doesn't sound very happy. And this guy is kind of a jerk, so it works pretty well. Mahmud of Ghazni, on the other hand, he has well, I guess you wouldn't want to face him either. His goal is political. Instead of becoming wealthy, he just wanted to be in charge. He wanted to rule India. Okay, now these guys established their capital at Delhi. That's why they're called the Delhi Sultanate. Sultan means prince, and Delhi means of the heartland. Now this is very important that you understand what this means. Delhi is right here. If this is India, see the tip of India, and the island down there, and right? Okay, so this is Delhi. Now these guys had come from the Caliphate over here, but they didn't establish their capital up here so that they could get orders from the Caliphate. They do it over here in the heartland, the main chunk of India here. What they're saying is they're essentially building a proverbial wall here. We don't, proverbial means not real, okay? They say, we are not part of you. We are a separate nation, and we don't answer to you. You do your thing, and we do our thing. Now, these guys rule India from about 1200 to about 1500 AD. And they do pretty well. They unfortunately had some battles, or unfortunately for them, it's not like it hurts us. They didn't really get along with the Mongols, who were trying to invade all the time. The Turks, where they're from, kept trying to establish control over them. And then, of course, the indigenous Hindu princes are not going to take it lightly that someone else is trying to rule over them and tell them what to do. Now, last but not least, is a place called Aksum. Okay, so what would this be? Big numeral 2. Whoa, work for me here. Aksum. Sometimes it's spelled A-K-S-U-M. Either one is fine, because of course they don't use our alphabet. Aksum is, if this is Africa, and this is Saudi Arabia, and that makes this India. Okay, here's the Nile. Aksum is right here. And so it's a great trading port because it's the primary link between the Mediterranean and Sub-Saharan Africa, and between all of the Silk Road stuff in Sub-Saharan Africa. See, their capital city, Adulis, was right here. Where were they? So you need to know where they are. Their capital city's right there. Now you also need to know why they had so many conflicts. See, these guys are Christians. And so you see a bunch of Muslims. I don't know why Christians is now spelled with an M. Let's just roll with it. You see a bunch of Muslims up here who really, really want to control the trade networks into the south. And so they see this as a great excuse to rally the troops and get everyone together so that they could take over the land. Of course, their motivation isn't really religious. Their motivation is financial, as shown by all of these money signs. And so they keep trying to go south into sub-Saharan Africa, but because these guys are Christians, the Aksumites are defended by the other Christians up here. Now, by the way, last thing you need to know is that this kind of Christianity is called Coptic Christianity, which we will talk about later.